Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. We're looking at kitchen knives again today. This is from TUO knives. We've got two of their knives from the Osprey series. These use German 4116 stainless steel, which is it's a budget stainless steel that is very corrosion resistant. It's got high amounts of chromium, so they're very good for kitchen knives. They're not so high end that they're going to break the bank. In fact, they're a very good price. And yet they've got decent durability and not too hard to sharpen either. This series has Paka wood for the handle scales, full tangs that go all the way back to the back. They're welded together there. And there's 14 different knives in this series. I've only got two of them here to show you. And if you're in the market for some of these knives, or maybe you've got somebody that you want to get a gift for, they've got 6 or 7 different series of knives with different steels, different handle materials. They've got some very ornate ones like the Ring series, which I've reviewed before, and they've got some budget ones that are even more budget than these. So this is, on the lower half of from their high end to their low budget, it's in that lower half, but it's close to the halfway point. A decent steel, better than most of the stuff, at least in Canada, than you can buy at a Canadian Tire store. We've got Canadian Tire store. It's a hardware, automotive parts, sporting goods kind of store. And they often have blocks of knives, like a wooden block, and then a bunch of different knives in there. And they list them as, $600 knives now on sale for $199 for very low, like 80% off. Well, those knives generally are not as good as these. So these ones, they're not going to tell you that they're something that they aren't. They tell you exactly what they are, which I respect in a company. And I think they're pretty decent. So let's get to the tabletop and take a look. Okay, as you're looking at those, let's start off. The Osprey series, again, has Paka wood, which is, as far as I can tell in my research, it's sort of a synthetic. These layers are so even that it's clearly not a tree that's grown that way. They're just too even. But it's a very, very stable wood. I think the black stuff in there is resin, and then you've got layers of wood in between. Because if you look very carefully at the, not the top one right here, but the second ring there, you can see lines that would go across right there. So it's layers of wood and then layers of black resin. Very stable. So you could put this thing in a dishwasher and it would be fine, but don't put your kitchen knives in dishwashers. Dishwashers make knives dull in a hurry. So it's not a good idea to put your kitchen knives into dishwashers, or any knives for that matter. So we've got Paka wood, we've got full tank construction. The steel goes all the way through. It's, like a thin piece of steel that goes through to the back. But with this kind of construction, it is very, very sturdy. I like that. And like I said, there is 14 different types. There's 13 of them on Amazon.ca. And Amazon.com, I think, has a little bit less than 13 of them listed. The way they're listed on either site is a little more complicated. On the Canadian site, there's one web page for the Osprey series, and then on that page you can pick exactly which models you want and stick them in your cart. But I'll give you the prices for these individually. I'll give you the prices of these individual knives, not for every single one in the whole set. So first off, 4116, is it really that good? Yeah, 4116 is a German stainless steel. It's produced in other places as well. Cold Steel likes to use it on some of their budget knives. And a number of knife brands use 4116. Often it's labeled as it is on here at 1.4116. Sometimes it's just labeled German stainless steel, although German stainless steel doesn't necessarily have to be 4116. So if you do see a knife that says German steel, it's not necessarily this one, but it's quite likely that it might be. As you can see, TUO Cutlery, if you go to tuocutlery.com, you can look at all the different variations, different kinds of knives that they have. And if you're an international viewer out of USA or Canada in some other country, you can go to their website and order directly, and they ship to a lot of different countries. I can't say all of them. The price is a little bit higher there than it is on Amazon.com, and maybe a little bit higher than it is on Amazon.ca as well. So for Canadians and Americans, use the Amazon links that are linked down below. And for the people in the rest of the world, try their website. They've got a good deal on. Not all of their models are in stock right now, but most of the Osprey models are available, and they've got a sale going on, at least on the day that I'm recording this, which is near the end of January 2021. So what two knives do we have here? We've got the Nakiri. It's a vegetable chopper. So this is what it looks like. It's basically a rectangle. Some of them have rounded fronts here that are not quite as square as this. They're just slightly rounded. I've even seen some that have slightly concave, but that's more for other kinds of knives, I think. This is basically a vegetable chopper. The exact model number, TC1411. It's a 6.5-inch Nakiri knife. Instead of giving you all the dimensions for these, I've got an image from TUO Cutlery, and you can just take a look at the basic specs of it. The utility knife, it's called a 5-inch utility knife. It's very close to 5 inches. These are both full flat grinds, as are most of their knives in this Osprey series. Actually, most of their knives in their whole catalog, which is quite good. These cut quite well. I have done cut tests on all of them, and they do cut fairly well. I don't show cut tests on my channel. I've got a whole video showing the reasons why. The main reason is an experienced reviewer can take a knife that is great and a knife that is terrible and make it look the same in terms of how it cuts through things. It really isn't that hard for somebody who's experienced with these things. I could make it look like this thing is dull as heck trying to cut through stuff. And I can make it look like it is super sharp and super easy to cut things, just because I've got skills at using knives. So I don't show cutting. Instead, I like to talk about the specs and the actual flaws in construction that I find, if I find any, and the styles of the knives, all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about this Nakiri first. It's got a very slight belly, so that if it's on a flat surface, it has just a little bit of rock in it. It's flat for the first half, and then it curves up a little bit here. So you can use it for just flat chopping straight up and down, or you could do just a slight rocking motion. Like assume my arm is the cutting board, you do rocking motion like this. Yeah, I've already used this quite a lot. That's why it's not super sharp, and so I'm not scared of doing this. If it was sharp, I would not touch my arm at all with this. But yeah, it's just a rocking motion like that to do your cutting very well. Utility knife, well, it is what it's called, the utility knife. It's got a bit of a belly on the front, and then again, a little bit of a section here. It does have an unsharpened heel for a tiny little bit. I'll give you a close-up shot where my thumb is right there. I think I would prefer it to be sharpened all the way. The plunge here does end where the sharpening started. So this area here, it is a bit of the plunge going up there. So, you know, your sharpening will not stay narrow like this here. It will start to widen up at the heel right here if you sharpen it right to the end. And also, you know, if you do let your finger slide forward a little bit when you're holding it, it means that you could nick your finger right there. So I understand why they didn't sharpen it right to the very heel on this utility knife. Whereas the Nakiri is sharpened right to the very end. The bevel, the plunge, I should say, starts about here where my fingernail is, not over there. So yeah, well made. I have to tell you one thing. When I measured the angles that this was sharpened to, I put this into my clamp, and it did look like it was marring the steel a little bit. This very shiny, you know, quasi-mirror surface can be damaged easily. If you've got a sharpening system that clamps, I would suggest that you put painter's tape or masking tape on both sides where the clamps are going to grab, so that you don't mar the surface of your knives. And that brings us to these angles. They say not Osprey, TUO Cutlery says that these things are sharpened between 8 and 12 degrees per side. Well, the reality is slightly different. Now, I forgot to mention in the intro that these knives were given to me by TUO Cutlery. They were sent to me at no cost, but they gave me explicitly gave me the freedom to say anything and everything that I want to say about these. Good or bad, doesn't matter. I can say anything I want. So, the Nakiri here, I've got my notes for the sharpening. Like they said, 8 to 12 degrees per side. The reality is, on the brand side, which is the side that says TUO Cutlery Osprey series, it has at the heel here, it's 23.2 degrees. At the tip, it's 17.1 degrees. The most of the middle section, the part that you actually use the most, it's around 16.7 degrees. On this side, the model side here, the tip third, about an inch and a half section up here, 18.8 degrees. And the rest of it here is very close to 14.8 degrees. A little bit of variability along there. So it's not 8 to 12 degrees per side. But the thing is, for this specific steel, 4116, I would probably sharpen it to 15 degrees per side because it's not a super hard steel. It's not a super durable steel. And so if you make it too narrow per side, then it's, the edge isn't going to last quite as long. Oh, I didn't leave my notes here for the measurements of how thick it is behind the grind. So on the screen right now, I'll give you two measurements, about 2 inches in and about 2 inches in. I'll measure the thickness behind the grind for the Nakiri. That's on the screen right now. I do like it for this kind of knife to be about 15 thousandths of an inch. Now for the utility knife. Again, I didn't find it to be 12 degrees per side or 8 to 12 degrees per side. Instead, it was I'm on the utility side here, the name of the utility side, 16.6 degrees with slight variation along the length, but not very much. Half a degree variation along it. This side here, the tip area for the first inch or so, it's about 15.6 degrees. And from the middle to the heel around here, it's about 13.4 degrees. So this one is sharpened a little more shallow than the Nakiri. But again, for the utility knife, I'd probably make it about 15 degrees per side. So now that these are both dull from use, extensive use for testing, I will sharpen them to 15 degrees per side. So what else do you want to know about these? I think I've told you pretty much everything. They are decent knives. They've got a decent amount of thickness on the spine, so it's good steel. They don't weigh too much. They're fairly well balanced. Let me see if I can get this to balance on my finger. It's a little hard to do. There we go. See, this one's balanced right there, which is perfect. And I can hold it closer to the screen and put this hand down here so you know I'm not using my other hand to balance it. That's where it's balanced. And this one is balanced, once I can get it. There we go. This one is balanced right at that seam between the pack of wood. So they've got good balance. They're not very heavy. They're good knives. They're a good budget kitchen knife that I think you can trust. Unlike a lot of knives, like I said, that we can find in stores like Canadian Tire Store, so many of those kitchen knife sets don't tell you exactly what the steel is. And so the good thing with most TUO knives is they make it very explicit what steel they're using, and kudos to them for that. I forgot to show you the boxes they come in. I'll do that, and I think then we're almost done. These knives come with little plastic tips so that they are secure during shipping, which is a nice thing. And they come in decent boxes. Their higher end knives have better boxes, but these are pretty nice boxes. They've got their TUO logo at the top, and then the series, Osprey series there. It's a decent box. It does make a nice gift box if you are going to be giving this to somebody. So thank you very much for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Those things really do help the channel out. And remember, chop towards your celery or whatever you're chopping, not your hands. Stay safe out there, guys. Bye for now.